With Dunkin' Go-Tos, you can get a great deal on two of your favorites, like 2 egg and cheese wraps for $2, 2 bagels with cream cheese spread for $4, and 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants for $5. In my opinion, it's a deal that's pretty tough to beat. That's just if you want my go-to cents. If you don't want my go-to cents, it's go too late. Dunkin' Go-Tos, a great deal for $2, $4, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Podcast. We're coming at you here on our 230-some episode, closing in on 240. That's right. Watch out. Now, tonight we'll be talking DC First, Superman and Lobo. Now, joining me right here tonight, Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, we're doing this DC First, Superman, Lobo for some reason, and why don't you go ahead and tell us why?
Tomorrow night on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, on a TV party, we will be discussing the now canceled Krypton Season 2.
Oh, man.
Krypton Season 2 features a new character. That character is the main man, lover of dolphins.
That's right, space dolphins.
That's right. Good old Lobo.
Uh-huh.
So in honor of Lobo being on Krypton, we decided to look at one of the many interactions between Superman and Lobo. There's not a single graphic novel that I could find.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Couldn't find, I would Google things like top 10 stories featuring Lobo and Superman. Nothing came up. But I was ever vigilant and diligent, and eventually I came across DC First, Superman Lobo. So that's why we're here tonight.
Right. This came out in 2002. I was trying to figure out, what is DC First? That's a title I had not heard of, but I noticed that in the back of this issue, they had, coming up or other DC First titles or whatever it was it promoted first meetings between some DC characters. So they promoted Superman and Jay Garrick, Alan Scott and Hal Jordan meeting for the first time, and the Cassandra Cain Batgirl meeting the Joker. I think what the focus of this book was to kind of show you stories that were never told. Superman meeting Lobo for the first time is what we get in this book. Now, this was written by Keith Giffen, who is the co-creator of Lobo. The pencils of this issue are Cliff Rathburn, inks by Rob Lee. Brad Anderson is on the colors. So, Mark Radulich, we know Superman. We know all about Superman, his backstory. I mean, you've watched the films, you've read some comics. The planet of Krypton exploded. However, a scientist by the name of Jor-El sent his only son, Kal-El, to Earth. Growing up in Kansas and taking on the identity of Clark Kent, he gains superpowers and is the protector of Earth and resides in Metropolis. So if anybody has no idea who Superman is, there is the basic gist. Now, Mark, I want to ask you about Lobo. Have we talked anything with Lobo in it?
Yeah, we did the book that was, I believe, written by Scott Ian. That's where I learned who Sam Keith was.
Yes, you did. And he forever got his name wrong up until today.
I'm not completely up in a fuck around mood today, so.
I hear you. So Lobo, we read that issue. Did you know much about this guy before then, or this character?
So my first interaction with Lobo was through the Legion comic in the 90s.
Okay.
Where to this day I still remember fondly and continually repeat the gag, I swell up like this. You have no idea what I'm talking about as usual.
No clue.
All right, so Legion is, I believe in the history of Lobo had premiered before that, but they were utilizing him in the Legion comic. And are you familiar with Legion at all from the 90s?
Yeah, a little bit, just a tad bit though. Is this a play on the Legion of Superheroes?
They're like intergalactic space cops, basically, from what I remember.
Okay.
If you want a quick, it's like an acronym. Legion stands for something. If you want to look it up real quick while I'm talking, but it's through the Legion comic that they were led by some green-skinned fella. Is where I discovered Lobo and fell in love with the character. And I think I might have read some of his solo stuff for a while before I gave up on comics altogether.
I'm looking it up here, by the way. I found it.
Okay.
Legion is a science fiction. This is straight off the wiki. Legion is a science fiction comic book created by Keith Giffen, Bill Mantlo, and Todd McFarlane, and published by DC Comics. The principal subject of the comic book is a team of fictional extraterrestrial superheroes. Okay, the original series chronicled the formation and activity of an interplanetary police force whose mission was to act as a peacekeeping force in their galaxy. Yeah, Lobo being on that seems a little out of character, but very interesting.
Yeah, he was kind of like a mercenary for them, if I remember correctly, or they ran afoul of each other. So there was a reason why Lobo was in the book a lot, and I think it was Lobo appearing in that book that then kind of launched him into his own solo stuff.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Just as an aside, there's a bit where they're recruiting new powered people, and there's a kid in one of the books where they're like, what's your power? I can do this. What's your power? I can do this. And this like fat kid walks up. He's like, what's your power? And he just kind of blows up like a balloon. And he goes, I swell up like this.
There's the reference.
My friend and I fucking died laughing at that. And we never stopped doing that joke.
Nice. Let me tell you a little bit about Lobo here from the wiki. Lobo is a Zarnian with exceptional strength and fortitude. He enjoys nothing better than mindless violence and intoxication, and killing is an end in itself. His name roughly translates as he who devours your entrails and thoroughly enjoys it. He is arrogant and self-centered, focusing almost solely on his own pleasures, although he probably lives up to the letter of his promises, but always no more or no less than what he promised. Lobo is the last of his kind. This is important. Having committed complete genocide by killing all the other Zarnians on his planet for fun. As detailed in Lobo number 0, Lobo unleashed a violent plague of flying scorpions upon his homeworld, killing most of its citizens. So, yeah, he definitely gained traction in the 90s. I remember that clearly because I saw him, even though I wasn't a DC guy, I saw him popping up and probably Wizard, and he was kind of hard to avoid. He had that anti-hero quality to him where he has that extreme personality. But yeah, anyway, there's a little bit about Lobo. So this story we're getting here is kind of the first meeting between Superman and Lobo. I'll jump into the synopsis here, and really real quick, I mean, I did a little bit of research here, Mark. The villains in this book are somebody called, an alien race called the Hegemony.
Hegemony.
All right. As far as I can tell, these were villains that were strictly just made up for this book. They don't have any previous DC history. Did a little bit of Googling, and I found out hegemony is a word, which is apparently used.
It is a word, Jesse.
It
Very
is a
good.
Word. I had no idea because I've never used this word in my entire life, but I'll give you the definition. Hegemonic villains have the desire to take over or rule the world, whether it is the actual Earth or their own world. On larger scales, some try to take over or rule their universe, and for the truly despotic and oppressive, all of the omniverse. This is arguably one of the most well-known types of villains. So interesting that he chose that word to actually be the name of this race. But here you go, the hegemony. Synopsis time. So the hegemony aliens. This apparently takes place a couple years before this. I remember it just said like a couple years ago when we got to the main story. I know there's like a little bit of a prologue there in the 50s, but then it said like a couple years ago. So obviously they're just kind of throwing it back to the past because Lobo and Superman have had their run-ins already in continuity. So anyway, the hegemony.
Are you saying that the continuity in DC is inconsistent?
Here's a story that happened before now. That's all they had to say. The hegemony aliens, who have been subtly contaminating the water supply since the 50s, have now come to claim Earth. Their first stop is to speak to Superman and allow him High Council status if he allows them to claim it. Superman, of course, is having none of it and destroys their robotic messenger. Now the hegemony have decided to contract Lobo. Lobo finds extra joy in knowing that Superman is the last of his race, and being able to commit ultimate genocide seems like an added bonus. Lobo heads to Earth, looking for Superman, threatening some humans until Superman arrives.
Welcome to Earth.
Now the fight begins. During the battle, the hegemony arrive, and we learn that the goal of polluting our water, this is interesting, for that long of time, resulted in a very addictive drug for their race. There's a couple panels where this alien has got like this woman alien on the couch, and she is begging for him to give her a vial of this. It's basically just water from our planet, but it's very addicted to them. They open a portal and start draining river directly into containers on the world, and Lobo and Superman fight into and right through it. When some defense robots on the Hegemony's homeworld open fire on both Superman and Lobo, Lobo calls off the fight due to the breach of contract, and the fight ends while Lobo intends to teach the Hegemony a lesson.
So real quick, Lobo debuted in Legion issue number 3 because somewhere along the line they hurt some sort of space dolphin.
That does not surprise me.
Poor innocent little fishy, whooped and dumped like some low-life hit. Some creep out there killed one of my babies. Some creep's gonna die.
Well, what'd you think of Lobo here? I mean, did he feel... We're not experts on the character, but did you feel like it was his...
It seemed like a good representation of Lobo. So one of the details you missed in your synopsis there was that the Hegemony, I think at least... The Hegemony attempted to... They recognized that the Earth was under Superman's protection. They attempt to... Now, what they want is the contaminated water because it's basically space heroin. And they try to buy the planet off of Superman, and he's like, it's not for sale. They're like, okay, well, we'll cut you in. Like, you sell your rights to the planet, and we'll give you a seat at the table of the Hegemony. Superman's like, no, that's a hard pass, pal. So they're like, all right, well, let's hire a hitman to kill Superman. And of course, Lobo is as indestructible as Superman. Lobo is basically like a cross between Wolverine and Deadpool.
Yeah, Lobo is very strong. I mean, you see him go toe to toe. He hits Superman in this book, and Superman like gets up after being, tossed through the wall or whatever, and he's like, that hurt. Yeah, so that's big time.
I think Lobo is equal in strength to Superman, and he's like nigh indestructible. Like, I don't know if Lobo has any weaknesses or not.
That's why a lot of people were pissed, talking about Wolverine. That's why a lot of people were pissed when it was DC versus Marvel, and Wolverine and Lobo are fighting, and Wolverine's the one that comes out on top. Nobody, of course, it was by vote. So, and Wolverine was extremely hot when that was voted on.
One of the more logical complaints about Captain Marvel was that what kind of tension or threat could possibly be out there when she can, just light herself up like a Christmas tree and destroy everything in her path.
Yeah, and then drop massive ships to the ground by flying through them. I hear you.
They were, the Red Letter Media guys were like, they have to invent reasons for her not to be around, or you're not going to have a movie.
You're going to have kryptonite involved, or some form of kryptonite, or she loses her power set. That's the only way. She's going to lose her power somehow, and then we're going to focus on the human side of things.
But, and so let's talk about Superman for a second. You have a very similar problem with him. The thing with Superman is that he puts a lot of restraints on himself. He was raised as a human, so he has a very strict moral compass. His rogues gallery are full of villains that are, with the exception of Lex Luthor, who are as strong or stronger than he is. And so Lobo and Superman are a pretty good match for each other because you have the chaotic neutral Lobo versus the lawful good Superman, and they're equal in power. So then basically it becomes, you never know who's going to win. It's not interesting as to who's going to win, because in a fight between those two, they'll just fight forever, like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. What becomes interesting about them when they tangle is the collateral damage around them.
Yep.
And in the story, when the Hegemony tries to hedge their bet, so to speak, and they send down the robots and they just shoot at both of them, like Lobo's like, okay, well, they breached their contract, so I'm no longer being paid to kill you. I'm gonna stop now.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the only thing that can stop this fight.
Right. And that's the point that I'm getting across. Is essentially like they put these two against each other, and they're like, okay, well, how are we going to resolve this? Because the Lobo won't stop, and Superman can't be killed without kryptonite. So this will just go on forever, and they'll destroy everything around them. So we have to invent a reason to move this forward. We have to invent a plot point.
You mentioned collateral damage. There was an interesting panel in here I made sure to make a note of where they're getting ready to fight. Maybe Superman got thrown through the wall, or they had fought outside, and then Superman goes into the bar. I can't remember. Either way, Superman launches a bike through the bar.
Yeah.
And Lobo calls him on it and is like, what do you think you're doing, man? You're not too concerned about the people you protect, which I thought was pretty interesting. Then, of course, Superman's like, I knew what I was doing. All right, well, he is Superman, so I guess
cop-out. That's a total cop-out by the right. Like, they're editorializing on Superman, by using Lobo that way, and then they realize what they're doing, and they're like, oh, well, now we've written ourselves into a corner.
Yeah,
so Superman would just be like, I did it on purpose.
I did.
I meant to do that.
Squished a human. I meant to do that.
It was all part of my plan.
He had a gun.
He was coming right for us.
So you want me to run down Lobo's powers and abilities according to DCFandom.com?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, here we go. Superhuman strength. His strength varies greatly from writer to writer. Lobo has shown sufficient strength enough to knock out Superman with his blows without too much apparent effort, but at times is barely able to pick up cars. So yeah, there's quite a bit of difference there. He has superhuman stamina. He possesses inexhaustible stamina, and in most interpretations cannot tire. Immortality. Lobo is functionally immortal and cannot die no matter what happens. He is immune to the effects of aging and disease and has been banned from entering either heaven nor hell.
Well, that's what I thought about, what was it? Highway to Hell, that's right. I remember saying when we did the source material on that, which is in the archives here on the Rattle Legend Broadcasting Network, which you can listen to through Podcoin. Hey, everybody. I really do hope you love the Rattle Legend Broadcasting Network. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. Here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code MARKWED5. That's capital MARKWED 5. Capital MARKWED 5. MARKWED 5. And you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code MARKWED5. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. Where it would be the first and not the last time that I would slam Sam Keith for his terrible artwork. If you're into that sort of thing. Anyway, what I liked about that was there's nothing you can do to Lobo to really hurt him. So you just have to put him in situations that, with the laws of physics basically change.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have to put him in an environment that is at least somewhat harmful or has some inherent hurdles, or you don't have a story with Lobo. You really don't have a character.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you throw at him, he's so like putting him in hell where, the regular laws of physics don't really apply and you can kind of just do whatever you want. Like, oh, things can hurt him now because it's hell.
Mm-hmm.
Or putting him in another dimension where, like negating his power set in some way, which to a degree also works with Superman. I think that was kind of the nice thing about Kryptonite. It was one of those things you could just whip out.
Yeah, it was the fallback.
Right. Like, well, how are we going to resolve this issue? Fucking Kryptonite. All righty.
And now we're going to change the colors of Kryptonite. There's black, there's red.
Right.
Yep. Well,
so as for this, I thought it was a funny story. I thought the Hegemony were a fun and interesting little race of people. I love the fact that it was much like Jupiter ascending, that Earth serves like a resource purpose. Nobody really cares about the people down there. Like, oh, Earth, we've been poisoning the water in order to create this massive meth lab.
I know, dude, that was different. I wasn't expecting that. I was like,
I thought that was great. I thought that was fucking great.
Yeah. So, biofission. He has the power of biofission. If Lobo spills even a drop of blood, that drop can become a completely new Lobo. What the hell? All right.
I really like the artwork in this.
Did you?
I thought this was one of the better drawn pieces that we've looked at.
This was drawn by Cliff Rathburn, which is an artist that I cannot say I've ever heard of. A few issues. Oh, he's done Invincible. Okay. Yeah, Invincible. I see that Robert.
Is that one of your stupid 90s comics?
He did Inks. No, Invincible was Robert Kirkman. He's the guy that did Walking Dead. He also took on a superhero book called Invincible, which is pretty good. Me and Ronnie did the first few issues, but he was Inks on that. I'm looking to see if he's done more than, like, there's a book called Brit that came out from Image. He's done some inks on The Authority, DC First, Superman Lobo, JLA number 60. He did pencils with writer Mark Waid. He later known for providing the grayscale coloring for Robert Kirkman's long-running series, The Walking Dead. So that's probably where he spent most of his time, because it says The Walking Dead number 6, and it says dash, and there's nothing else there. So he's probably been doing that for a while. And Walking Dead's nothing to sneeze at, I'll tell you that much, since it's probably one of the most popular comic books that are out there. But, hey, he did a good job here. Mark Radlich says so. When Mark Radlich says something good about the art, you know you've got something.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of drawing both him and Superman.
Felt like a comic book. Any other thoughts on it? I mean, I had a good time reading it. I can't say that I hated it. I mean, it was a Lobo Superman story. You know, we kind of got a glimpse at their first ever meeting, and it just kind of ends with, all right, well, hey, I'm not going to kill you now. Oh, okay, that's great.
There was a really funny bit. I mean, just to find something to talk about, that was a really funny bit where Lobo... No, it was the Hegemony contact Clark while he's at the Daily Planet. And he has to, like, usher him into the elevator. And because he doesn't want Lois to get hurt, he doesn't know how this is going to go. He just shuts the elevator on Lois, and he just thinks to himself, boy, am I going to pay for that later.
The whole Jimmy Olsen tattoo thing?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
He was dating like a goth chick or something like that.
Yeah, and he got a Superman tattoo. There really wasn't much to that. I thought that was going to turn into more than what it was. It was just like, he got a tattoo. All right. That felt like filler.
Well, again, folks, don't get a tattoo for a girl because you'll just break your heart and then you'll be stuck with stupid artwork on you.
Yes, that's the truth. I assume that this takes place before she knows Clark is Superman, even though this came out in 2002.
Gosh.
I think that
it's hard to say because, like, she seems to. I feel like she indicated that she did, and that's why she kind of forgave him for just shutting the elevator because she realized there was something Superman-y going on.
I thought he was trying to hide his secret identity because that dude just walks up on him talking Kryptonese or whatever the hell it is, and he's like, "Okay, I got to get out of here before anybody recognizes what's going on." But yeah, even at the dinner table when they're sitting there talking, I mean, I couldn't even tell what if there was still that mystery between her and you didn't see Superman and Lois in the same spot or him changing into Superman in front of her. So that really doesn't have much of a bearing on the story. It's just that you see that kind of play out there as. Yeah.
I think given the fact that it isn't particularly relative to the story, it's open for interpretation. My interpretation was that she knew, and that's why she was so flirty-gurty about it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing, like, I don't know if it says on, like, Comic Vine or on Lobo's Wikipedia page, like, how many times he showed up in any one of the Superman books. Because I know that, I feel like Lobo showed up in, like, the Further Adventures of Superman. That was, you know, when Batman the Animated Series came out. It was followed by Superman, I believe, the animated series, and I think he was on that. And Lobo showed up in this or that cartoon. But I was always under the impression that he had more of a presence in Superman comics. And then when I was Googling it, I really couldn't find anything.
No,
nothing consistent. Like, maybe that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe he showed up in an issue here or there, but nobody's really sought to put, because we would have done it if they had. Nobody has really sought to put the Lobo Superman interactions into one trade paperback.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mark, we've discussed DC First, Lobo, Superman. Why don't you tell everybody what we have on the agenda?
Tomorrow night on the Rattlevision Broadcasting Network, we'll be recording our TV party tonight for Krypton Season 2, the final season, unless it gets picked up by another distributor. I don't understand why, you know, if whatever studio was actually producing it, why DC Universe, you know, who needs content, why they didn't just pick that up as the distributor. But whatever, I don't work in Hollywood.
You just make logical decisions.
Yeah. Wednesday the 28th, we have our Metal Hammer of Doom for Rage of Light Imploder. So Thursday, you'll have a double shot of shows. Myself and Alexis Hannah will be doing a TV party for the Banana Splits horror movie that Sci-Fi is airing. Will have aired. And then that night, you'll get an extra double Hammer of Doom. You'll get an extra Damn You Hollywood. It'll be Robert Winfrey, Alexis Hannah, and Jason Teasley doing Ready or Not. How about that?
Here I come. You can't hide. I'm going to find you. Oh, sorry.
And just remember, that's the night where we're recording X-Men Legacy 2.
Got it.
That's why I'm not on that show. Friday night, myself, Jason Teasley, and maybe or maybe not Alexis Hannah will be reviewing Zombie Tidal Wave from the Sci-Fi Channel because fucking he twisted my arm. The 31st, I'm getting up at O'Dark early in the morning to do live coverage of UFC Fight Night Andrade versus Zhang. I'm going to ruin all the Chinese Chinaman names.
Oh, wonderful.
That same day, there's New Japan Pro Wrestling Royal Quest, NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, and AEW All Out. After we've watched those, myself and Chris Bailey will be reviewing that show Tuesday, a special recording time of 9 a.m. So that'll be right in the that'll be up on the site early in the morning. We'll be reviewing all three of those shows, and then later that night will be a TV party for Hannibal season 3, the last one, baby. September is Onslaught month, so every week on the Source Material podcast, from September 2nd through September 23rd, is another volume of Onslaught 1, 2, 3, and 4. September 4th, we'll have a special extra source material drop, X-Men Legacy Volume 2, entitled Invasive Exotics. And then that Thursday, myself and Jesse will be reviewing the final season of Legion Season 3. How do you like that, Jesse?
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it.
Indeed. I'm throwing my wife out of the house Saturday, September 7th. I'm saying, here's a kerchief and a stick. Here's $10. Get the fuck out of my house. And I am going to nestle myself into the chair, and Robert Winfrey and I will be covering UFC 242 Khabib versus Poirier from Abu Dhabi from 2 to 5 o'clock. Special start time because they're in the Middle East. We've got It Chapter 2 on September 10th, Killswitch Engage Atonement September 11th, She-Ra Season 3 September 12th, Bloodsport 2, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 2, John Moxley versus Josh Barnett. Myself and Pat will watch it, and we'll tell you all about it.
Ooh, sounds violent.
Yeah. We've got a TV party, I think myself and Robert Winfrey, and you? Are you joining us for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance?
Don't count me in on that one.
Okay, I think that's just me and Winfrey. We're covering the new Tarja Bomb on September 18th. And then myself and Sean Comer will be putting the Dark Crystal from the 80s on trial. We've got Rambo, Last Blood, Corn to Nothing, Disenchantment Season 3, again with Robert Winfrey. And then finally, the last week of September going into October, we kick off Halloween a little bit early. We've got a source material for the seminal Elseworld Batman graphic novel, Gotham by Gaslight. We've been planning this for like 2 years now. There'll be a TV party for the Gotham by Gaslight animated movie. We've got Hell Yeah, Welcome Home. Pat Mullen, Jesse Starcher, and I are going to do a TV party for Beverly Hills 90210.
Spectacular. It's BH 90210.
BH 90210. Yes, the series that's currently on Fox. And then Jesse's going to dig in the archives, and he's going to do a rebroadcast for The Killing Joke, just in time for the new Joaquin Phoenix Joker Oscar bait movie. So that's everything here in the month of September, baby dolls. I hope you'll be here and enjoy it with us.
Very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, go give the Rattlich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like. We do have a special Unspoken Issues just dropped there last week, so you can check that out. Magnus Robot Fighter #1. Yeah, Magnus Robot Fighter dropped our Unspoken Issues episode, and we have already figured out our next podcast on Unspoken Issues will be on Supreme number 42. That's right. It was chosen by the Unspoken Decade Facebook fans as our next podcast. So we're going to be talking about that and recording here pretty soon, so keep an eye out on that. It's be a lot of fun. All right, well, other than that, that's Mark Rattlich. I am Jesse Starcher. Thank you for joining us on our discussion on DC First, Superman Lobo. We'll be talking to you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to give that Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts we have to offer. We are at home on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and recently we have hit the air on Spotify. Find your favorite podcast platform and type in RADULICH to subscribe for some great content. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word. And as always, we appreciate any feedback and look forward to entertaining you again soon.
We are going to be de-talking and discussing.
We're detoxing?
And colors by Brand? I hope I put that right. Fuck
you want to start again?
You know, the extreme... Why in the world have I lost words tonight?
You want to start over?
Nope.
Things will up like this. Back to the issue we're actually talking about.
Shit.
I had Taco Bell the other night, and then I was Power Vision. Scrolling. Keep them doggies rolling.
This comic looks like shit.
Yeah, this is awful.
Lobo looks like he fucking belongs on Degrassi Junior High or some shit. fucking Lobo's hairstyle. What the hell, man? It's changing every book. Not the American Legion Weekly. I doubt that's correct.
It's just Legion, sir.
Lobo. His fucking hair is ridiculous. And that stays that way. Jim Fern draws him like that the whole fucking time because
he looks like one of those Star Wars characters with their heads like that.
They're like, Wolverine has the weird cut where his haircut's in two different. They have to split down the middle. So they're just like, well, how about we just take Lobo and reverse that and take all his hair, give him a diamond head. What in the world? What are the aliens with the red dots on their heads?
Indians?
Yep, fucking Indians. Dominators. Upcoming for the Radulich in... Jeez, crummy. If I could talk. There's a little burping and yawning and everything, every other bodily function going on here. So...
It's well up like this. I'm so glad we found it. We can end the show now.
With Dunkin' Go-Tos, you can get a great deal on two of your favorites, like 2 egg and cheese wraps for $2, 2 bagels with cream cheese spread for $4, and 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants for $5. In my opinion, it's a deal that's pretty tough to beat. That's just if you want my go-to cents. If you don't want my go-to cents, it's go too late. Dunkin' Go-Tos, a great deal for $2, $4, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Say Metro by T-Mobile got the best deal in wireless, and it's all for you, all for me. Just switch quickly, because Metro has 2 lines for $80 and 2 Samsung Galaxy J7 Star phones for free, plus Amazon Prime included. That's the way wireless should be, only at Metro.
Plus sales tax and activation fee. $50 plus rate plan required. Not valid for numbers currently on T-Mobile network or on Metro in past 90 days. Offer subject to change. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Amazon Prime has a $12.99 per month value. Restrictions apply. See store for details and terms and conditions.